Hey guys, it's Jill and welcome back to my channel. This video is going to be the Where My Lore Started book tag. I saw that Carrie Can Reads recently posted a video where she created this tag based on the Bookstagram trend that people have done for the last few weeks, just talking about the different books that they have loved in childhood, when they were in elementary school, etc. And when I saw this video, I was really excited to recreate it myself because I'm pretty bad at posting on my Bookstagram account. But I'm going to get right into the first question. It is, what's the first book that you remember reading by yourself? This was actually hard for me to think of because I feel like I don't have that many memories as like a very young child. But I do remember reading with like my mom and dad, Goodnight Moon. I remember reading in school If You Give a Mouse a Cookie. So those are the two that I have listed for this question. And I'm pretty sure that If You Give a Mouse a Cookie, that author also had different animals. It was like If You Give a Moose a Muffin. I think that was actually a book. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. There were probably a bunch of other ones as well, but I really liked that book. I just thought it was really cute, and just looking at the pictures and everything in these books, I just thought it was really fun. Question 2, what character did you identify with in elementary school? So that is when I was reading these books, the Click books by Lacey Harrison, and of course I wanted to identify with Massey Block, the cool girl. She was popular, she was beautiful, she had all this money to buy designer clothes when she was like 11 years old. But unfortunately, I feel like I'm most related to Claire Lyons because she was not cool, in the first book at least, and she was really just trying to navigate this new place that she moved to with her family, navigating friendships and a new school. I can't really remember if she was smart or not. I haven't read these books in years, so I'm going to have to do a reread. But yeah, I probably related to her mostly because I wasn't that cool until I was probably in university. Question 3, what was your elementary school comfort book? I remember reading Geronimo Stilton a lot in elementary school. I had a collection of books in my little bookshelf in my room. I really hope that I did not just get rid of all those books because I would love to like pass those on to my kid one day. But Geronimo Stilton, I loved those books because they were so unique in that if you've ever read one, you would know, but they had like different backgrounds when you read for basically every single word. So if it said like the word cheese, then there would be like the background of a cheese. Or if it said long, they might have it like really drawn out. I just thought that was very cool, and it really just made those books super engaging for me. And then I also have the Warrior Cats, which I'm also wondering where those were because I had so many of those books, probably like 10 of them. But I really liked these books. It was just about these cats that could talk to each other. They would go on different adventures, and yeah, those books were great. Next I have the Baby Mouse graphic novels. So I vividly remember in my one elementary school class, we would have like a little library. Well, each class would have this, if I'm remembering correctly, like a little section where you had the library, and then during reading time you can go and choose a book. I remember my class had a bunch of these Baby Mouse graphic novels. I really liked picking these ones up. I think there were like 4 or 5 books in my classroom. I read them all, of course, and it was about this little mouse that she would just be doing fun things. I don't even remember exactly what they were about, but yeah, I really enjoyed those. And it was kind of my introduction to graphic novels because I feel like I wasn't really into graphic novels. I feel like Baby Mouse was the only graphic novel that I read in elementary school. I'm just googling it here, and yeah, it's just so fun. Like Baby Mouse, Queen of the World. You could finish these books so fast too because it was a graphic novel. So yeah, I really liked those. Those were really fun. It's really interesting reminiscing on these different books that I remember reading because really up until having to prepare for this video, I haven't thought of these books in so long. So now looking back at them, it's like really fond memories that I'm thinking about. And then of course the Hunger Games, that was definitely a comfort book for me. I don't remember exactly the age I was when I started reading this series, but I read the first book like 4 times. I was just really enthralled with this series, and then of course when the movies came out, I was so excited. I went to every premiere for those releases, so yeah, those were just really fun. I think with the Hunger Games, or reading them as a kid, you kind of overlook the political aspects of the plot, but now as an adult watching the movies, I haven't read the books in years and years. I can definitely appreciate the messages that it conveys more so than when I was like 10 years old. On to question 4 though, where or what was your safe space as a kid? Kind of as a joke, I put the Scholastic book fairs in here. I was always so excited and just really loved going to these Scholastic book fairs. I never really bought too much, but I would get like the little erasers and pencils and stuff, and maybe like one book. But it's really comforting thinking back to those times. And also the little book order, little catalogs that we used to get, where you could order books but also cute little trinkets and stuff. I don't think they do that anymore probably, but I also loved looking through those as well. I feel like, okay, that's not really a safe space, but my other safe space is just in my living room at my house, is where I would usually read my books. So yeah, I guess my living room was my safe space, which is kind of boring. But on to question 5, how was your taste in books, or sorry, how has your taste in books changed since childhood? So I feel like when I was a child, I was mostly into contemporary books, and I wasn't really into the fantasy world. I remember seeing a YouTube video from Elle Fowler, and she used to do these videos talking about books. I'm pretty sure she called them glitteratures, which is so clever. But I remember she was recommending Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard, which I've now read, and it's great. But I remember she was recommending and talking about that book, and I was like, I don't think I'm like interested in reading this book. Back when I watched that video at like 12 years old, I didn't really have an interest in reading fantasy, which now fantasy is one of the main kind of genres that I read from. So that is how that has changed. And it's also funny though, because when I was in elementary school, when I would go to my library, there were a slew of books in the like vampire genre, which technically is fantasy, and I read like all of those books. I feel like there were 10. I talk about them later in these questions. Yeah, I really loved those books so much, but for some reason I like didn't consider in my head that they were fantasy too. Question 6, did you feel inspired to read by your school, and if yes, how did your upbringing encourage reading? So I don't think I ever really enjoyed the books that I read in school and was forced to read them. Of course, the ones that I would read for like a book report or something, I liked those. But I remember reading like The Chrysalids and the 1985. I think that one was better than The Chrysalids. I think I also read Animal Farm. If I didn't read that, I remember my older sister talking about that way back in the day, and maybe she had to read that one for school. But I definitely wouldn't say that school inspired me to read, and I don't remember being forced by my parents or anything to read either. I felt like I just had a genuine interest in it, but my parents did read occasionally, as well as my older sister, so probably part of my interest in wanting to read came from that role modeling from all of them. Question 7, what book have you wanted to return to lately? I'm pretty sure I said this in one of my videos from when I started this channel, like early 2024, saying that I want to reread The Hunger Games, Divergent, and the Delirium series, which is what all of these are here. So I have them physically, which is good, but I haven't done it yet. So we'll see if in 2025 I can get to any or all of these. Probably not all of them, but I can try. Question 8, your favorite or formative YA series? So going back to that series I would read from my library, this is the House of Night book series, which I've seen plenty of these books when I've gone thrift shopping, and which is sad because I feel like those books were so good. At least, I don't know if I would think they're good now, but when I read them as a teen, I really loved them. These are the vampire books, and I just remember, I can still remember the line that it was, but this series I feel like definitely sparked my interest in romance, and I just remember them being so swoony and feeling like, oh man, I really want a boyfriend, like when I'm 12 years old. But yeah, I loved those books. I read all the ones that my library carried, and I can remember staying up all through the night finishing these books because they were just so good. And also, I think Sarah Dessen is another author that piqued my interest in romance. All of her books are kind of a copy and paste of each other, which is kind of funny because I ate all of them up, and they were always kind of set in a beach, small town, just very quaint, with the girl that's like not like other girls, of course. But also John Green, which I have a bunch of the books here. They're here. I really remember loving these books, Looking for Alaska and The Fault in Our Stars. The Fault in Our Stars also just like hit different, and I feel like I just changed as a person after I read this. And if you're around during the 2010 Tumblr era, then you would know that this book was like the blueprint for so many different quotes and certain pictures, which is super funny now looking back onto it. But yeah, these books definitely shaped my personality. Oh, then I also have, of course, my click books too, which I feel like these click books are kind of like the reality TV version of YA drama, but I really enjoyed them and I read all 11 books, so I feel like they definitely were formative for me during that time of my life. Question 9, a book that you had to read in school but you loved. Romeo and Juliet is the answer for me, which is interesting because I personally found Shakespeare extremely difficult to understand. I remember, I think it was when I read Hamlet or Macbeth in high school, I had to get a book that literally had line by line, kind of like it's both in English, but I needed this book that had side by side of what it said and the more modern English kind of translation side by side. So I struggled with reading Shakespeare, but for whatever reason, I just found that Romeo and Juliet was a play and story that definitely stood out to me. And we also watched both of the movies, I think, like the one with Leonardo DiCaprio and then also the one with the more older one. I can't remember who was starring that. But yeah, I really liked that book, weirdly enough. And I also didn't mind Hamlet and Macbeth either. Oh, I also read the one where they had to get the pound of flesh. I don't know what that one's called. The Venice? Merchant of Venice. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, those ones were all fine too, but I think I just liked the romance part of Romeo and Juliet, which, if you know the ending, they die. So not really romantic, but for whatever reason, my 14-year-old self loved it. Okay, question 10, your weirdest favorite book. So that is going to be, okay, I have them here. Unwind. I only have 2 books, but, oh, this is book 2. I know that there's 3, but I don't think I have the 3rd one. If you've read these books are very weird. So the premise of these books is very odd, and I remember telling my parents about these and they were like, are you okay? But these are about a society where if you turn 16, your parents can choose if they want you to be unwound. So that basically means that they take your body apart and use your organs for people that need them, which ethically is definitely questionable. But usually this would happen to people who were like delinquents, who were not really great kids. And I don't remember if it was the 1st book or the 2nd book or the 3rd book, but there is, spoiler alert, there is a person that they create just out of people that were unwound. So I was just like floored by that plot and the whole idea, but it's really funny to look back on now because yeah, my parents were probably like, what in the world is this girl reading? Question 11, if your 13-year-old self could live in a fictional world, which would it be, and is it different from the world that you would choose now? I feel like my younger self would probably want to live in a Sarah Dessen book where it's just like this ideal cute small town on a beach and all these hot boys are like wanting me. Or the world where the House of Night books took place in. I don't even remember if it was like real world or not. Honestly, both of those options are not even really different than the real world. So I would say now though, I would choose like a cozy fantasy fictional world for me to live in, where I can just like hang out with the fairies and do some gardening and I don't know. Okay, question 12. Is there a newly released book that you wish you had when you were younger? I feel like I would have loved having the Hunger Games prequels out when I was a teenager because I just loved the Hunger Games. I feel like that was probably my #1 favorite book like when I was a kid. So yeah, probably those. But at the same time, it's honestly kind of fun to get the prequels out now when I'm an adult because then I can kind of reminisce and go back to those books. Like I read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes in 2020 when it came out, and then the other book just came out like this week. What's it called? Okay, I don't know how I forgot this, but Sunrise on the Reaping, of course, that just came out this past Tuesday. I haven't picked it up yet, but I definitely will sometime really soon. But I'm trying to avoid spoilers, so hopefully I can read it sooner than later so TikTok doesn't eventually spoil it for me. But those are all the questions for this Where My Lore Started book tag. I'll leave the questions down in the description box if any of you want to do this video too, or if you just want to answer any of the questions in a comment down below. And I would love to hear your thoughts on any of the books mentioned, if you also read them when you were younger, or if you read them when you were older too. That's fine as well, of course. Don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to my Booktube channel for much more content coming soon, and I will see you guys in a video next week. Bye!